Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're getting super specific. Let's find a long-ass series with a long-ass list of items and find the toughest among them. Hey, Final Fantasy, get over here. These are the 10 hardest items to get in Final Fantasy games. These items require a lot of patience and sometimes a lot of skill, but mostly a lot of patience and some skills. And patience and skill. Let's go. Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. Gold Chocobo, Final Fantasy VII. The Chocobo is a rideable, flightless bird that debuted in Final Fantasy II and has since become one of the most iconic elements of the Final Fantasy series. This is so not the place or time to bring this up, but my buddy Aiden used to call them Chibocos, and I had to digest that knowledge, so now so do you. Chocobos have served many roles, from helping players travel faster to being central to breeding and racing minigames. While Chocobos are everywhere across the games, one type stands out as especially rare, and that's the Gold Chocobo, introduced in Final Fantasy VII. To obtain it, players must breed a black chocobo with a special yellow chocobo using a Zao nut, requiring several generations of breeding. And breeding is really frustrating and it's a long ordeal. The Gold Chocobo is the game's best variant and does not look unsimilar enough to the regular chocobo to justify the time you've just invested. Tournesol, Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII took players offline and into the world of Ivalice, and although it had a lot of standout weapons, one standout weapon introduced in this installment is the stunning Tournesol, a golden sword adorned with the sun and moon symbols on its hilt. Not only is it visually breathtaking, but it's also the strongest weapon in the game, which makes sense that requiring it is a painful ball ache. To synthesize it, players must first synthesize 3 key items, each of which requires its own set of ingredients, many of which are extremely difficult to gather. One of these components must be stolen from the optional superboss, Zodiac. Additionally, players need to part with 600,000 gil. To make things more confusing, fake Tournesols appear in the game, wielded by the boss Gilgamesh. Bloody Gilgamesh. The Stellazio coins, Final Fantasy IX. References to the Zodiac are a recurring theme throughout the Final Fantasy series, with Zodiac-themed items and summons often making appearances. Just take a second to think about that, because I didn't catch that till researching this list. One such set of items is the Stellazio coins, introduced in Final Fantasy IX. The Stellazio coins consist of 13 rare coins, and these coins must be gathered in order, with Stella rewarding the player for each one they present. Each coin contains a clue to finding the next, but the 13th and final coin requires a more intricate process. Players must piece together the clues from the previous 12 coins in their item screen to uncover a new hint, or alternatively, just sell the game. Ribbon, Final Fantasy VIII. The ribbon is one of the most iconic items in the Final Fantasy series. As an accessory, it grants protection against nearly every status effect in the game. While some installments limit its availability by gender, such as Final Fantasy Tactics, it is generally accessible to all characters. However, Final Fantasy VIII is the one title where many players never even had the chance to obtain the ribbon. This is because it required the use of the Pocket Station, a Japan-exclusive device that worked with specific PlayStation games and allowed them to be loaded onto a portable handheld device. When used with Final Fantasy VIII, the Pocket Station enabled the Chocobo World minigame, which was the only way to obtain the ribbon ability for a Guardian Force. So while technically it's not hard to get when you have the equipment, the Japanese exclusivity made it really difficult for a young Australian boy way back in 1999. Excalibur 2, Final Fantasy IX. In the early days of gaming, rumors on the playground circulated about insanely difficult ways to unlock items and cheats. Who could forget the wild theories about finding Mew near the truck by the SS Anne in Pokemon Red and Blue? Final Fantasy IX embraced this kind of absurdity by including an equally ridiculous method to obtain one of its best items. The Excalibur II, Steiner's ultimate weapon, can only be obtained by reaching the final dungeon, Memoria, in under 12 hours. If you're even a second late, the sword is lost forever. For players using PAL systems, the challenge is even greater as the game ran at only 5/6 of the speed of the NTSC version, leaving them just 10 hours to reach the final dungeon. Another loss for Australia. First it was the box jellyfish, and now it's Final Fantasy IX. Pink Tail, Final Fantasy IV, The After Years. Final Fantasy IV, originally released as Final Fantasy II in North America, was the first title in the series to launch on the SNES, and is widely regarded as a groundbreaking release and one of the best RPGs ever made. The Pink Tail, a recurring item in the series, made its debut in this game. It's a rare drop from the Flan Princess, which only appears in one specific room in Luna Subterrane. The Pink Tail is even harder to obtain in Final Fantasy IV The After Years, where the Flan Princess appears in a more specific location and only during a full moon. However, it's worth the effort in both games as it's required to obtain the Adamant Armor and Pink Armor, respectively. Onion Knight, Final Fantasy X. All of the celestial weapons for the characters in Final Fantasy X are a pain to acquire, and like the rest, the most powerful weapon wielded by Black Mage Lulu in Final Fantasy X is the Onion Knight, which is powered by the Venus Sigil. Technically, it's the Sigil that's hard to get, but you need it to get the Onion Knight, so that's why the entry says Onion Knight. Also, get off my back. To acquire this sigil, players must travel to the Thunder Plains and simply dodge lightning bolts. 200 times to be exact. The counter isn't visible during the process, so you have to keep track of it yourself. Leaving the area or saving and quitting will reset your progress, so you must remain focused and persistent. Once you've dodged 200 bolts, a chest containing the Venus Sigil will appear. This can take 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus and lightning fast reflexes, pun intended. Serpentarius, Final Fantasy Tactics. Not only are the mainline Final Fantasy games considered classics, but so are the spin-offs. One notable example is Final Fantasy Tactics, released on the PS1. Despite the gameplay differences, many familiar elements from the Final Fantasy franchise remain, including notoriously hard to find items. Among the rarest are the Zodiac Stones, which contain the spirits of demons known as elusive. The most elusive is the 13th stone, Serpentarius, which can only be acquired after defeating the boss Elidipus in the final level of Midnight's Deep. And trust me, this boss is way harder than dodging 200 lightning bolts. King of Jump Rope, Final Fantasy IX. Many items on this list are powerful weapons and upgrades that enhance the player's combat abilities or unlock additional rewards. However, not every hard-to-obtain item in the Final Fantasy series proves useful in gameplay. Some hold only sentimental value, and the chumps who collect those have a special place reserved for them in Nerd Hell. It's like Nerd Heaven, but the Wi-Fi cuts out constantly. Early in Final Fantasy IX, players control the young black mage Vivi as he explores the city of Alexandria. During this time, Vivi can encounter a group of children who invite him to play a jump rope minigame, a challenging button-mashing activity with several prizes. If the player manages to complete 1,000 consecutive jumps, Vivi earns the title of King of Jump Rope and receives a commemorative item. However, this item has literally no use in the game. Congrats, you played yourself. Seitengrat Bow, Final Fantasy XII. This final entry isn't hard because of skill or even really patience, although you'll need a lot of it. It's hard because of pure dumb luck. The Seitengrat Bow becomes obtainable once the player can access the Sky Ferry. On the deck of the Sky Ferry, there is a 1% chance for an invisible chest to spawn. If it appears, there's a 20% chance it will contain an item, and with the diamond armlet equipped, there is a 5% chance that the item will be the Seitengrat. This results in a 1 in 10,000 chance of obtaining the Seitengrat each time the deck is entered, provided the player even knows the chest exists. If you knew there was a 1 in 10,000 chance of choking to death every time you ate a burger, you'd literally lower your burger intake by 0. Those are great odds. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.